Monsters Inc. is a movie that was released in 2001, and is probably the only movie that wasn't overshadowed by the Zoolander movie. What else did you think I was going to say? In the movie, the monsters use energy generated by the screams of children to power their world. In order to get these screams, the monsters need to go through a door which leads them into the bedrooms of millions of children all around the world. Now, there's a lot to be said about this movie, and you could definitely argue the fact that you can draw parallels here to the real world. Like how when the CEO is presented with a more efficient and, if we're talking about impacts on the child's well-being, environmentally better way of generating power, the big company wants to keep their archaic way of getting power because it keeps them rich. But there's plenty of other more intelligent people you can learn about that topic from. I would suggest all-around good guy Steven Crowder is a reliable source on this topic, unlike that friendly Jimmy's with all his talk of environmental protection and not committing war crimes. It's a blight in Australia, if you ask me. So I will instead stick to the purpose of my channel as stated by one of my Discord members, which was answering the questions no one asked. So, how do the doors work in the Monsters Inc. movies? The first possible answer that I can think of, and I would assume everyone would think, is the idea that these doors are just basically portals. A door exists in the kid's bedroom, and that is one end of the portal. It can be turned on and off only at the other end, which is in the Monsters Incorporated factory. This is done solely by having the door in position and powered on in the monsters world. This idea, at least at face value, seems like the way to go. But the more you think about it, it begins to unravel. The main argument I can see against this would be when Mike reconstructs Boo's door from pieces left behind after it goes through a wood chipper. There's no direct mention of how it works, but all that is ever said is that the pieces were taped back together and the door was powered on. To me, this seems like a hole in the portal theory because all that is being done here is just reconstructing a wooden door with a few pieces of tape. Yes, it gets powered on, but assuming that to have a portal you would need more than just a door that looks like one in another world, there's no kind of link being made between the two places that the audience gets to see, which I would assume, based on every other kind of media that features portals, would need to be done to re-establish a connection. This makes me think that this isn't the answer we're looking for. A second theory that I had for how the doors can lead to different places was based on the TARDIS from Doctor Who, which is the ship that the Doctor travels in. The TARDIS is a living biomechanical ship that, as stated by everyone who enters it in some variation, is smaller on the outside. I just made like 3 people who watch that show laugh, and we need it after those Chibnall years, don't we? The TARDIS transcends the dimensional plane, which ultimately allows it to be its own pocket universe. In Doctor Who, there are whole episodes dedicated to exploring the corridors within the TARDIS, and it is heavily implied, if not said outright, that it can extend forever. Now hear me out. What if Monstropolis is actually a pocket dimension? In Doctor Who, the TARDIS is able to camouflage into any kind of inconspicuous structure that fits the world around it. So, for example, if the TARDIS landed in 1960s London, it would disguise itself as a police box, which was something very common to see on the street in that time. The reason that the TARDIS always looks more or less the same is because the chameleon circuit which controls the camouflage broke while it was a police box, causing it to be stuck the way it is. Damn, I really busted out the chameleon circuit on that one, didn't I? But what if it wasn't broken? If any kind of disguise was possible with this technology, then yes, you would be able to disguise the entrance to your pocket dimension as a closet door in a bedroom. Now granted, we only ever see one door being used to enter and exit the TARDIS, but that could be just because a police box only has one door. Imagine if instead of only one door, a pocket dimension with a TARDIS-like structure existed, but with multiple different entrances that could lead to anywhere in the human world. The only argument that comes to mind against this theory is that because the TARDIS-like pocket dimension is in the human world, expanding from one house to another to link the closet doors, there might be an actual physical barrier between the two places that might be camouflaged to look like a corridor, but it is just a wall. You know in Mission Impossible where they have that like camera thing in that like sheet? That could be exactly what it is, except like, I don't know, a brick wall that you're running into while you're trying to tuck your son into bed. Also, from what we're shown, you can't turn off the entrance into the TARDIS, so those doors wouldn't actually be able to be used as closets. But I guess you could argue that you could disconnect that door from the rest of the dimension and it works fine. Trust me, if you've seen enough Doctor Who, that sentence makes sense. I don't know how else to put that. You're just gonna have to trust me. I know that that point turned more into what if the Monsters universe had a TARDIS rather than a pocket dimension, but the TARDIS is the only thing that I've actually seen that utilizes a pocket dimension in a similar way. You've gotta stop explaining things in terms of Doctor Who. We lost 4 more viewers in this expedition. If you can think of a better way to explain pocket dimensions, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, that beats me.
You know, I know that Rick and Morty had like the pocket dimension, micro dimension, teenyverse. I feel like that is a separate thing. It doesn't work the same. Sticking with the T and the S from TARDIS, the last theory I have is one that might be a bit more familiar because it's been used in so many other kinds of shows and movies. And that is that what if the doors in this universe worked because of a fracture in space and time? To me, this is probably the most grounded out of anything because the idea of a rip in the space-time continuum is something that at least to some extent is actually theorized to be possible. And even looking online, there are people that debate that black holes are doing exactly that. Let's say, for example, that the monsters in the world discovered how to harness the power of a black hole and use it to create several different links to the human world. In this scenario though, and I love this, the monsters would actually have to be aliens. At this point now, basically anywhere in the galaxy, the monster aliens could use this new bit of tech to be able to tear through time and space and enter any kid's bedroom. Just like Jeffrey Epstein, am I right? He can't sue me because he's dead. I can see how an argument could be made against this theory, mainly based on the fact that I've never studied the idea of space-time, and all of my knowledge about it comes from a mix of the 11th Doctor's story arc and the most recent Indiana Jones movie. But hey, think about it, man. I tried to find any kind of actual explanation from Pixar about how these doors worked, but there was not a single shred or hint anywhere of how the technology was developed or how it works in general. The only hint to anything that I could find was that in the 1800s, the use of the door technology ramped up. I would guess the reason for there being no set-in-stone explanation is because it's just easier to not explain it, and then you can play a bit fast and loose with the rules when it fits the story. Personally, I think as straightforward and as boring as it is, the portal theory is probably the most accurate to how it's actually working in this universe. It just makes sense that this is what it would be, and the way that it's operated in the movie with basically just an on-off switch, to me that just lines up more with a portal. I can't imagine a pocket universe working that easily, and especially not something like a rip in space-time. You know, you can be advanced, but I don't think that the monsters from Monsters Inc. are advanced to the point where they can manipulate. I don't know. Hey, look, this is all speculation. I'm just going off now. I'm off script. I'm off the grid. What's his name? Roy. I'm Roy. As much as I would love for it to be as complicated as the pocket dimension theory, I don't think it's that deep, man. But at least I got to put all the hours I spent learning about Gallifreyan technology to some kind of good use, right? Right? Thank you all for letting me fill your day with this pointless rambling. Let me know which theory you think suits best in the comments, or if you have your own theory of what it could be, let me know there too. I am genuinely interested for some reason. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, subscribe to see my next video where I am, quote, answering the questions that nobody asked. Have a good one, and I'll see you later.
Cause I'm hard